Welcome to Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio with author, speaker, and your host, Pat Rouleau. Finally, someone willing and able to blow the top off hidden healthcare and hospital dangers. She's provocative, upbeat, balanced, fearless, fresh. Pat has over 20 years of experience as a professional public speaker and knows how to approach this important subject with enough humor and wit to keep you informed, entertained, and empowered. Each week you will say, "Oh," as Pat explores and exposes little-known hospital hazards, delves into the deep waters of dangerous healthcare practices, picks the brains of her good-looking and influential guests to help keep you and your family safe in today's fragmented healthcare system. The program is not intended to replace medical advice from a licensed professional, but rather to encourage you to become a well-informed participant in your health and well-being. And now, your host, Pat Rouleau.
Hello, I am Pat Rouleau, and I will be your hostess, your one-stop patient safety radio hostess, where I will spend the next hour serving you a generous helping of everything you need to know to help you and your loved ones stay safe during any doctor or hospital visit. People ask, who are you? Who am I? I am you. I am every person who has ever been in a hospital or doctor's office and has received less than acceptable treatment. I am you, the person who got an infection during a simple outpatient procedure. I am you, the patient whose questions are ignored, who struggles to speak to the doctor as he or she has one foot out the door. I am the missed heart attack, the hospital-acquired infection, the wrong diagnosis, the unanswered call button. This patient safety show is all about you, your family, your friends, and your loved ones. Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. Yes, that's OH with an exclamation point. Will cause you to say oh, as each week we delve into little-known hospital and healthcare dangers. When you understand why something happens, you are better equipped to do something to change it and prevent it from happening to you. If enough people begin to speak up, together, each of us can alter the current precarious path of today's unsafe healthcare practices. Today, I am ready to share some serious smart meter information with you. I am shocked that almost everyone I ask has no idea about the dangers of these electric, gas, and water meters. And later, we have some special guests with us today from Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center in Boston, Massachusetts, as well as a fun contestant ready to play our Jeopardy game. So you do not want to miss a single word. Hopefully, you are sitting in your favorite comfy seat, ready to share this next jam-packed hour with us. But now, it's time for the healthcare hazard of the week. And today, we're going beyond the bull, the bull, the bull, the bull, the bull. 2 weeks ago, I talked about smart meters, and the response was crazy. So many phone calls and emails from folks who either didn't know about the health dangers surrounding smart meters or who did and wanted to do something about the forced deployment of these little discussed health hazards by our friends at the utility companies. For those who missed it, briefly, smart meters are digital meters which record electrical, gas, and water usage. The information is then transmitted wirelessly to the utility companies. Smart meters have already been installed in many states. Some states are currently in the process of installation, but eventually all states will have them. In fact, it's a global effort to create a smart grid. These smart meters are referred to as access points. So, for example, the information from your meter or access point is sent to utility points usually located on streetlights and power poles. Then, this information is forwarded to the utility company. In this way, smart meters provide real-time data to the utility company, removing the need for meter readers. The installation of smart meters is only the first phase. In the second phase, your appliances will communicate with the smart meter. This provides information on when and how much electricity a particular appliance uses. The information will then be available to the consumer to make smart choices regarding their electrical usage. The communication between appliances and your thermostat and smart meter will occur wirelessly. Well, now, that sounds very cool, doesn't it? So why the concern? Well, with the installation of millions of smart meters, the number of cellular transmitters is increasing and changing our RF exposure, that being radio frequency or radiation exposure. These fields do not occur in nature. And in the second phase, when our electrical appliances are talking wirelessly to the smart meter, the RF levels and exposure to RF frequencies inside our buildings can and will be increased. There will be no way to escape from this exposure. These frequencies are similar to frequencies used in cell phones, wireless computer networks, cordless phones, baby monitors, Wi-Fi systems, and other wireless networks and devices. The meter uses a technology which is referred to as frequency hopping spread spectrum. That means that the transmission frequency will change constantly during its monitoring, making it impossible for the utility companies to say that the frequency is at a safe, predictable, and constant level. The data from the wireless smart meter is then sent out in short transmission bursts. The most controversial question is, how often is this intermittent burst occurring during any given 24-hour period? This short time sequence makes it difficult to detect and measure the signal properly with RF instruments. During a measurement at one residential meter, the researchers manually counted the number of bursts for a 10-minute time period. The number of bursts varied significantly over the time period. So the question is, what effect do these peaks, spikes, and bursts have on us and our bodies? Many people already have reported significant and serious changes in their health and well-being related to the installation of wireless smart meters on their property. The main symptoms reported are sleeping disorders, insomnia, tinnitus, ringing in the air, fatigue, nausea, dizziness, irritability, listlessness, heart palpitations, and changes in behavior. And these are just the initial short-term symptoms. Who knows what the long-term cumulative effect of this radiation exposure will cause? And think, if this exposure damages us as human beings, it logically has an impact on the environment, birds, animals, all living things. But then most of us don't think to do anything about these kinds of things because, heck, I haven't fallen over yet. I feel good today. The birds are still flying around. All is well. I wonder what I should have for lunch today. Oh, and then what about the genius dad who just invented smart pajamas? Nah, don't read a book to your children before bed. Simply scan their pajamas and let them fall asleep with the radiation from the smartphone bathing them to death. To me, it's unbelievable. And what about privacy issues? With this type of remote access to our electrical, gas, and water usage, what we do in private now becomes available to whomever views the data at the utility company. Aha! Mr. Dinglemeyer is taking a shower right now. Uh-oh, Mrs. Shamanskowitz is in the refrigerator again. I think if I was in the market for a new appliance, I'd be sure to purchase one that does not have the smart chip in it. In this way, the utility company cannot eventually communicate and potentially turn off the appliance if they think I'm using too much or using it at the wrong time. Does Big Brother come to mind? And now hacking into the data transmission is another concern. Now thieves and thugs can figure out how to tap into this information and can easily tell by your usage if you are home or not. Customers have also reported significant increases in their bills because you will be billed for an entire hour of use. And if you dry your hair for 3 minutes during a heavy use peak period of time, there goes your bill. So what can you do? People are asking about surrounding the meter with tinfoil. The exterior shielding of meters may not be very useful and actually may impede the operation of the meter and may be counterproductive. Shielding kits have already been sold on the internet. How effective they are should be evaluated by taking before and after installation measurements with a quality RF meter. Now, I'm not a scientist, so I'd say to do your due diligence before spending lots of money on dubious remedies. The best remedy is to fight right now not to have one installed on your home Or if you already have one, do everything you can to have it removed. All of this concern has led to community activism against the installation of wireless meters with websites and appeals to decision makers and politicians. I've personally attended some meetings about this and find that only a small group of people even know about this. And when I asked how to best bring this subject to light via this radio program with solid ways to offer you, the listener, a resource, who to call, who to talk to, I was given a list of local, regional, and state representatives to call. So before I gave you that information, I tried all of these avenues myself. Here's what I found. When I called the utility company, they forwarded me to a phone bank of people called Rule the Roost, which I believe is part of Honeywell, the manufacturers of the smart meter. They basically said nothing of value, although a nice girl did put me on the temporary opt-out list. Then I called the Public Utilities Commission, and another girl quickly took my name and tried to get off the phone. I asked, "Do I get a confirmation number for this phone call? Do you need my address, phone number, or other identifying information?" "Oh no," she said, "we made a note that you called." Yeah, I'm sure you did. I gave her my name so quickly and sloppily on purpose so that she wouldn't be able to understand what I said, in hopes that she would ask for clarification, the correct spelling perhaps. Well, she didn't. I could have said that this was Seymour Butts, and she wouldn't have known the difference. Then I went to every website of our state and local politicians and sent an email via their online contact forms. No answer from anyone, and it has been weeks. I called Senator's office in Columbus, Ohio, and was told to call my local office. So I called, and the gal who answered the phone must have started that afternoon because she either had no idea what I was talking about or she feigned ignorance. After being put on hold, an aggressive-sounding woman answered. "How can I help you?" Oh, I told her that I host 3 radio shows on patient safety in the Cleveland area and want to be able to give my listeners correct contact information regarding their concerns about smart meters. "You want to do what?" she replied. So I nicely repeated myself. "Oh, you'll have to call your utility company." Seriously? Talk about uninformed. So I explained how that was a fruitless endeavor and that as a representative of the people, the senator needs to hear what the people have to say. "Oh, you'll have to put that in writing before we say anything to the senator," she said. "Yeah, I already did that via your website and haven't heard a word." Frustrated, I hung up. So, who should I tell you to call? At this point, Ghostbusters might be the best choice. Our politicians seem to give lip service up to the point and then back off. Wishy-washy, yakety-yak. I say hit 'em with your purse and don't vote for those who do not do their job to listen and represent. This is radiation without representation. We, the consumer, should be provided with clearly understandable information about the radio frequency emission of all devices that emit RF radiation, including smart meters. Such information should include the intensity, the duration, and frequency of the power output and, in the case of smart meters, the pattern of sending and receiving transmissions to and from all sources. We should not allow our rights to be stripped, to be ignored, to be brushed off by ignorant telephone girls, to be avoided by our elected officials. We should not be forced to have the utility company install, or as they say, deploy, as if this were some kind of military strategy and we are the enemies. We should not be forced to accept a known cancer-causing surveillance device to be attached to our only safe haven, our homes. Right now, the best thing you can do is share this radio show with everyone you know. This segment that you are hearing right now will be posted on our website so all who missed it can hear it. Send mass emails to all of your contacts and send them to speakupandstayalive.com. There you will find a letter that you can reproduce to send to your utility company and your representatives in an attempt to make your wishes known. You'll find this and more information about smart meters at the website speakupandstayalive.com. Now, the easiest way to correspond with me personally is to email speak@speakupandstayalive.com. You can call me, and I try to get back to everyone, but the amount of calls is sometimes so high that it may take a few days. But leave a message, and I will get back to you. 440-725-5462. I do want to hear what you have to say. And with that, let's hear some legal news you can use. We received a legal question from one of our listeners last week, and I think it best that we get the right answer from our friends at Schraff and King. So let's get Allison on the phone, a smart and friendly attorney who always takes the time to help.
Schraff and King, this is Allison.
Hi, Allison. It's Pat from Speak Up and Stay Alive, Patient Safety Radio.
Hi, Pat.
We have a quick question for you. Do you have a moment?
I always have a moment for you.
Yay, thank you. Francis M. left a voicemail. I signed these documents 10 years ago. Should I complete a new living will or medical power of attorney?
Francis, I would recommend that every few years you have all of your estate planning documents reviewed just to be sure that there haven't been any changes in your life circumstances that may warrant a change in any one or more of the documents you have as part of your estate plan. The medical power of attorney that we use is a document that is put out by a collaboration of the Ohio State Bar Association, Ohio Medical Association, Ohio Palliative Care Organization, and those forms do change. So as the law changes, they are updated those. So it is important to have the most recent, even if nothing has changed with regard to who you want to serve as your agent.
So it wouldn't be a stretch to maybe periodically even bring your paperwork to you at Schraff and King and say, hey, would you just take a look at this and make sure I'm up to date and that the forms are accurate?
Yeah, we often review documents for clients that we've prepared their documents or another attorney has, and sometimes we don't need to update those documents, but it is important for that peace of mind to know that they're the most current and they include everything that they should include.
That's great advice. That was a good question. Francis, well, thank you for taking such good care of our listeners.
Thank you, Pat. I'm happy to help.
If you have not taken care of your advance directives, write this number down and get it done today. Schraff and King, give them a call at 440-585-1600. They are conveniently located on Som Center Road, just south of Route 6 in Willoughby Hills, Ohio. Or visit them online at schraffking.com.
I'm Jerry the Gerb, here to spread healthcare and hospital safety tips all over the airwaves. Here's our expert, Pat Rouleau.
Hey, Jerry, what are you doing on the hospital floor? Just hanging out, waiting for an innocent patient to get out of bed with bare feet, hoping to hang on and get comfy under the nice warm sheets when they return? Not with my friends, you don't. They know about you and your sneaky ways. They always wear a dedicated to the floor pair of footies or slippers when they get out of bed and never wear them back into bed. They have one set for the floor and one set for the bed. And they sanitize their hands after they remove their socks or footies. My friends know how easily cross-contamination happens, and they know that germs like you can live on fabric for long periods of time. Too bad, Jerry. No more free rides for you. For more safety tips like this, visit speakupandstayalive.com.
Stay safe. Listen to Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. For more information, go to speakupandstayalive.com.
Brought to you by Generation America, the smart and traditional 50-plus membership organization. And they provide a full range of benefits to members. If you're looking for quality Medicare supplement, their rates are lower than the other 50-plus organization 3 out of 4 times. Generation America. To join and to find out more, visit generationamerica.org.
This show is all about being prepared for every healthcare and hospital encounter. We talk about hospital hazards, the need for patient advocate. We stress the importance of advanced planning to prepare a healthcare power of attorney, a living will, and so on. It's all about making that conscious effort to choose to have a choice. Yet, so many people leave the biggest day of their life out of this conversation. Yes, I'm talking about dying and death. Did you know that 70% of people questioned prefer to die at home? Yet 70% die in a hospital, nursing home, or a long-term care facility? What can be done to change that and align those desires with the outcomes? Well, our guests today have some help for us. The folks at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center in Boston, Massachusetts, the teaching hospital at Harvard, are part of a group of pioneer sponsors along with the Institute for Healthcare Improvement to ensure that their organization is conversation ready. Our first guest is Jennie Greene. She is the project manager for Conversation Ready at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, as well as the communications manager in the Department of Medicine. And also with us today is Dr. Lauge Sokol-Hessner, a project director for Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center's Conversation Ready initiative, and a hospitalist, as well as coaching medical students and residents as they develop their communication skills. And I welcome you both to the show today.
Thank you. We're pleased to be here.
Thanks for having us.
This is such an important topic, and I'm so happy to have two experts, such as both of you, to help us understand how we can learn how to talk about such a sometimes difficult topic. Explain to us exactly what is the Conversation Project.
So the Conversation Project is a large national initiative, including Ellen Goodman and ABC News, as well as partnering with IHI, the Institute for Healthcare Improvement, to get us and patients and their families to start talking about what their wishes are, how they'd like to be cared for when they are near the end of life or have a serious illness.
Okay, and I understand that Conversation Ready is a part of the Conversation Project that was created by the Institute for Healthcare Improvement. Can you tell us about that and what your organization is doing to become Conversation Ready?
That's right. Conversation Ready is focused more, rather than on patients and their families, it's focused on providers and healthcare institutions. And it's designed around the 4 R's is a nice way to think about it. We are trying to get better at reaching out to patients and their families, asking what it is that they want, what's important to them, how they'd like us to care for them, recording those wishes in our chart, retrieving the wishes when we need them to help make decisions. And by doing those first 3 things, doing a better job of respecting their wishes, whatever those may be. And so we, as Beth Israel Deaconess, are one of 10 pioneer sites around the country trying to figure out how to do this, and have been working at it since January, meeting regularly and really spreading out across our institution to figure out how to do this.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about reaching out. How do you go about reaching patients and families in thinking about and talking about their wishes and preferences?
We are in the process of developing materials that we plan to offer to patients, both hard copy brochures that we might have in waiting rooms, for instance, as well as electronic documents that we may be able to email to people ahead of time or put on our patient portal. So those approaches we're actively thinking about right now. There is also a wonderful tool that's been developed by the Conversation Project called the Conversation Starter Kit that we would certainly recommend to patients who are looking to start to think about this and talk to their families and healthcare proxies about their wishes. There's also a tool, in fact, called How to Talk to Your Healthcare Provider, which is also another nice way for patients to start thinking about having these conversations with their healthcare teams.
The next R we have is recording those wishes, not only for our personal records, but into the facility's health record system, and maybe help us understand how is that done.
That's, I think, a real challenge. And it's not something that I would say many healthcare facilities have figured out how to do that well, and I think we're really actually learning here. There are, I think, a couple different ways to think about it. One is that there are these documents, advanced care planning documents, like a living will. One example would be something called 5 Wishes, or the healthcare proxy form, or other sorts of advanced directives where someone has said, this is the kind of care I would want in the future if I encountered this sort of medical situation. And I think those are valuable. I think those are useful, and they certainly can be the starting point for a conversation. But the second option, besides having one of those formal forms or a legal document, is really just to have a conversation and just talk about it. And oftentimes those conversations can be really rich and include a lot of information. It's hard to anticipate the future specific medical decisions that you're going to need to make. And so what's often more useful is actually having a general sense of who the person is, what's important to them, how they like to be cared for, so that when you get to one of those specific situations, you can make good choices for them. And so writing down those conversations, capturing what people's hopes and fears, what their goals and wishes are, those are often some of the really key components to record in the chart.
And are those recorded electronically, and do patients have access to that?
I think having it somewhere electronically so that it's not a piece of paper sitting in a safe at home,
right,
but it's actually a document somewhere that everybody who's going to help care for you can get access to it, is a really key component. Mm-hmm. So I'd encourage folks to think about, how can I make sure that this document is stored somewhere that everyone can get to it when they need it?
As an institution, as a healthcare facility, why is it important to you to understand and be able to respect those patients' wishes?
What we envision is we want patients and their families to say, I know that if I go to Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, I'll be cared for the way that I would want, or my family member will be cared for the way that I want. It's a very deep sense of respect for patients as people first, not patients first.
Not only is this work important for patients and making sure that we ensure that we're respecting patients' wishes, there are quite a number of studies now that show that for families, really understanding a patient's wishes makes the decision to what to do at the end of life easier, and certainly the grieving process much less painful if a family really understands what a patient wants and is able to communicate that to the healthcare team and feels like they're doing what this patient would want and understands what the patient would want. They are in a much better place in terms of the process of grieving. And so I think that's an important point, because it's not just about the patient, and obviously that is first and foremost important, but it's about those who are left behind as well, and feeling like they understand what their loved one would want in that situation.
Absolutely. Oh, that's beautiful. Many of our listeners are not in the Boston, Massachusetts area. So what if their healthcare provider does not broach the subject? How should the patient initiate the conversation?
The kit that IHI has put together, it's on their website. If one goes to the Conversation Project website and then clicks the link to look at the Conversation Starter Kit, there's also a link to a kit that says how to talk to your doctor or your healthcare team. And that really details very nicely some ways that you can initiate the conversation with your doctor or your nurse practitioner or a nurse or whoever it may be that you spend a lot of time with and that you feel comfortable with. It gives some very specific examples of language you can use, some of the things you might consider talking about. We found it to be a useful thing to help our patients begin the conversation with a provider that might not be as familiar with this work. We're also spending a lot of time thinking about the stories. Myself as a hospitalist, I care for patients who've been admitted to the hospital for an acute medical illness, and on a regular basis, I see situations where advanced care planning, meaning selecting a healthcare proxy or having some of these conversations, have occurred, and sometimes when it hasn't. And I'm able to see how that plays out. How does that affect the patient and the family's experience?
Right. I was just going to ask if you have any real-life stories that might show or contrast a situation when a patient arrives at the hospital already having their wishes addressed versus a patient who is not.
Well, all the time. I recently had a situation that maybe could have been handled differently. I had a gentleman who had a progressive myopathy, meaning that his muscles were gradually failing him. This was a diagnosis he'd had for many years. And he had several very good physicians and other clinicians who followed him outside the hospital. But he was getting worse, and he ended up getting admitted to the hospital. And I met him near the beginning of his hospital stay, and we had one of these brief conversations, and he said, I've been thinking about this stuff a lot, and I realize I'm near the end of my life, but I'm having a really hard time talking about it with my family and my doctors. And so we started some of those conversations, and he ended up actually spending about 3 weeks in the hospital. I rotated off and went to a different service, but my colleagues continued to care for him, and there ended up being about 3 weeks where they tried to figure out, should we put a feeding tube in him because he was having trouble chewing because of his muscle weakness? Should we help him with a breathing tube and a breathing machine because his respiratory muscles were failing him? And ultimately, after about 3 weeks, after lots of conversations, he ended up saying, no, I really don't want those things. And actually, when I first met him, he said he didn't want them. But it took about 3 weeks to get everybody on the same page. And then he was finally discharged to home. He went home on hospice. And only a couple weeks later, he actually passed peacefully at home while on hospice. And as I reflected on that with my team, residents and medical students, we thought, wow, when we first met this gentleman, he had about 5 weeks left to live. And we didn't know that at the time, but he was very close. And 3 of those weeks were spent here in the hospital, away from his family and friends, in a situation that probably wasn't as comfortable as it was being at home. And how could we have handled that better? How could we have handled that situation better? How can we as a system do better? That's one example where it hadn't happened. And, these situations are always difficult, but one situation where it did go well, I had a fairly young woman. She was in her mid-50s, and she had suffered from several chronic diseases, including cancer, and the chemotherapy for the cancer actually gave her a lung problem, a lung disease that was very rapidly progressive and for which there's no treatment. She ended up in the hospital suddenly with shortness of breath and needing to be on oxygen. She'd never needed oxygen before, and now she couldn't even go 10 feet across the room to the bathroom without getting short of breath and having to rest. So we ended up starting to have some of these conversations, and she was really frank about it. She said to me, I don't want to end up on a machine. I told my family that, but they weren't okay with that. They said, no, that's not okay. We want you to end up on a machine if need be. We're not ready to let you go. And so she said, well, I negotiated with them, and I said, give me a week. And if it looks like I'm not getting better, then you can let me go. And ultimately, about a month or two later, that's actually what happened. After that conversation she and I had, we wrote it down. I wrote it down in the chart, actually just used her words, what she had said. She had already had the conversation with her family about it. She had already negotiated with them. And ultimately, that's what happened. She ended up on a ventilator, and it looked like she was making no progress. And ultimately, they let her die naturally. And it was actually she was cared for the way she would have wanted. And while her death was premature and it was still a really, really hard situation, at least we did the best we could in that hard situation. So those are a couple stories, but they happen every day. Ultimately, this really is about caring for people the way that they want to be cared for. Whatever their wishes are, we want to respect them. But really, it's a very patient-centered approach. Well, how is it that they'd like to be cared for? How can we help them get where they want to go?
Right. It is all about the patient.
It is.
So how can our listeners learn more about you and what you do?
To learn more about the Conversation Project and the resources that are available to patients, they can go to the Conversation Project website, which is theconversationproject.org. To learn more about Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center and the work we do here, our website is www.bidmc.org.
Well, I appreciate both of you being here today. There's a big gap between what people say they want and what actually happens. So I thank you for joining us today to help ensure that everyone's goals for end-of-life care are expressed, recorded, and respected. Thank you both.
Thank you, Pat.
Thanks for having us. It was a pleasure.
Let's spend the next 2 minutes with Elizabeth Bailey, patient advocate and author of the book, The Patient's Checklist. Elizabeth, most people don't think of hospitals as dangerous places. Why do you say they are?
Well, under the best of circumstances, mistakes in care can be made because doctors and nurses are fallible. They're human. And given the frantic pace and the fragmented care in today's technology-driven hospitals, mistakes in communication and lack of careful attention to detail are not just likely, but inevitable. Patient deaths from preventable medical errors in hospitals are one of the leading causes of death in this country. If it was categorized as such, it would be the 6th leading cause of death for Americans. And just consider these statistics of hospital care. A hospital patient, on average, is subject to 1 medication error per day. Every 6 minutes, a patient dies in an American hospital from a hospital-acquired infection, an infection acquired after admission, usually from a healthcare worker's failure to simply wash his or her hands. 65% of identified adverse patient events were found to have communication failures as the underlying cause. Simple information is not being properly relayed from nurse to doctor or nurse to nurse at the shift change. That's why I feel that the best thing patients and families can do is be actively engaged and vigilant about monitoring care while they're in the hospital.
And your book is a great resource for our folks to stay informed and empowered. So with that in mind, how can our listeners find out more about you and how can they contact you?
The easiest way to find out about me and my book is to go to my website, which is thepatientschecklist.com. The book is called The Patient's Checklist, and it's 10 simple checklists to keep you safe, sane, and organized during a hospital stay. And, of course, it's available on Amazon.com.
Well, good. Thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing your simple hospital checklist as a way to keep us safe, sane, and organized. We look forward to learning more next week.
Thank you.
We interrupt our program to bring you a special broadcast.
Today we have our favorite and our in-house infection prevention guru, Darryl Hicks, author of the book Infection Prevention for Dummies, nationally recognized as one of the industry experts in infection prevention and control as it relates to cleaning. Welcome to the show, Darryl.
Good to be here.
We thought we'd include you in today's game of Infection Prevention for Dummies word association. Here's how it goes. Joe will read a word. Bob will say the first thing that pops into his head. And then so will I. Then, Darryl, you can share some of your wisdom and advice as it pertains to that word.
All right, this next one is what you guys come in and wipe everything down with. Disinfectant wipes.
What do you think of, Bob?
I think about when we first walk in a radio station, we disinfect the tables and everything.
Right, they're convenient, and I always think of one wipe per swipe.
Very good, because I think some people try to stretch them too far and try to clean too much. And a rule of thumb is when you wipe it, it should remain wet for at least 60 seconds to 90 seconds. If it's drying out before that time, then it's probably not doing an adequate job of disinfecting. So make sure that you kind of watch it and that you use enough wipes that a surface will remain wet for up to a minute and a half. If you do that, I think disinfectant wipes are a great adjunct to the cleaning program, because if you're in a patient's room and housekeeping is in there 15 minutes out of the day, someone has got to maintain that clean and safe environment for the other 23 hours and 45 minutes. So everyone that goes in and out of the room, if they're raising and lowering bed rails and touching things in the room, then if they don't use the disinfectant wipes, that's a good time for you to grab one and kind of be the example sometimes, because people get busy and they're focused on the clinical side of things. But you have to have the vision that you're going to go after the bugs that can make people sick. So disinfectant wipes are a great additional layer to the housekeeping doing their job once in a 24-hour period.
Right. Don't just sit there, wipe something. How can our listeners learn more about you and your important book, Infection Prevention for Dummies?
Just go to my website, DarrylHicks.com, DarrelHicks.com.
Darryl, we look forward to your weekly guest visits, as you always have so much usable information to share. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Pat. It's been fun.
You're listening to Speak Up and Stay Alive, Patient Safety Radio. Now you can join us every Saturday morning on 2 Cleveland, Ohio stations and on 2 Phoenix stations, on Saturday morning in Phoenix, Arizona, and on Sundays in Phoenix. Or listen to us live online from anywhere in the world at the station's websites. I am your hostess, Pat Rulo. So happy to spend this hour with you to help you survive any healthcare or hospital encounter. Well, now today we opened the game chamber and everyone decided to play one of our most requested games. Are you in Jeopardy or are you safe? Here's how it goes. I will describe a healthcare or hospital-associated scene, and our contestants and you here in the studio will decide how you would react to that situation. Are you in jeopardy or are you safe? What we're really asking here, is this a safe practice or not? So you're not going to get a whole lot of information, so don't give me the excuse that you don't have enough information. All right. Today we have several guests right here in our studio, excited and ready to play and hopefully win the fabricated championship belt.
Is Don in the booth? He's ready. Okay, here we go. In 5, 4, 3, 2. Cue lights, music.
Now entering the studio are today's contestants.
And who do we have first?
I'm Bob from Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and I'm a former financial planner.
Thank you, and welcome, Bob. And second, we have...
I'm Eric. I'm a regionally famous radio producer from Northeast Ohio.
And welcome back to our regionally famous radio producer. And we have a special guest here in the studio.
I'm Allison McMeechan, an attorney with the law firm of Schraff and King in Willoughby Hills.
These people will compete today on...
Are you in jeopardy or are you safe?
Let's get it on.
All right.
Okay, here is the first scenario. You are going to have some non-emergency elective surgery. You schedule your surgery for a Friday in July. Are you in jeopardy or are you safe?
You want me to take it first? I think you're in jeopardy because July is a bad month to have any surgery.
All right.
Because of people on vacations, change, and then Friday's not a bad day because everybody's in a hurry to get away.
All right, that's what Bob thinks. What do you think, Eric?
Honestly, I don't know. I never thought about that before.
Well, I'm glad that you said that you never thought about that before, because I think most people haven't thought about that before. Allison, what is your thought on that?
I'm going to say that because I'm an optimist, I'm safe because I'm putting all of the trust in my medical professional to want to work late on a Friday and not be planning his or her Hilton Head vacation to go golf.
Thinking about going to play golf that afternoon, too.
No, sorry.
You're going to get a beep, Allison. Oh, my gosh. And I'm glad what Eric said, what he said, because I think many people don't think about this. Actually, just given that bit of information, you could be in jeopardy because the summer months, holidays, weekends, and evenings are the most susceptible times for a medical error. Why? Because during the summer, many of the senior staff do take vacations, like Bob said. The new residents and interns begin their practice. The older and the more seasoned residents have graduated. So there's a real dramatic shift in personnel in July. And actually, it's called the July effect. And it's especially known in teaching hospitals. And holidays, weekends, and nights are usually shifts that are given to those that are fairly new, those with less tenure. So if you have a choice, be smart and keep this information in mind. I think we all learned something here.
I definitely did.
I was halfway right.
I'm scheduling all procedures for August on a Wednesday.
There you go.
Or October on a Wednesday, even better.
That's even better. Excellent. All right, guys, here's scenario number 2. You are a patient in the hospital. The alarm on your IV medication bag begins to beep. A guest in the room fiddles with it to turn it off. Are you in jeopardy or are you safe?
I am in jeopardy, and I will be hitting my nurse call button repeatedly until someone comes to be sure that it's changed correctly.
I think you're right. What do you think, Eric?
I'm in jeopardy. I'm wondering, is this other guest trying to kill me?
That's right. You need to question who
because of your snoring in the room.
Definite jeopardy.
Absolutely. So that's kind of an obvious one, right? Sorry. Of course, it's not the smart thing to do. Although I do admit that sometimes all of those alarms beeping do give you what's called alarm fatigue. And it probably gives the nurses alarm fatigue as well. But it's always best to alert the nurse in charge when the alarm goes off. When I was in the hospital with my mom, they came to know who I was and trusted me. And so they showed me how to turn that alarm off so it wouldn't wake up my mom. But then they knew that I was not going to just fall asleep and let it go, that I would call the nurse in charge. So, yeah, I think it's obviously an unsafe practice. It means something when it goes off. All right, here's scenario number 3. You are having difficulty reading small print. You haven't had your eyes checked in years. A friend recommends her ophthalmologist. Before you schedule an appointment, you do some research online and specifically check to see if this doctor is board certified by checking the American Board of Ophthalmology website. Are you in jeopardy or are you safe? In other words, is that a good practice?
Unless this is a trick question somehow, that sounds like you're safe.
Okay.
I think you're safe because I think no matter what type of procedure, no matter if it's eyes, nose, throat, whatever it is, you want to check to make sure that person is board certified in any practice.
Okay. Allison.
I agree you're safe. I think it's a good practice to look into anyone that's going to be providing treatment to you in any type of medical field.
I think it's an excellent idea. Now, when you get there, the doctor might not be so whoopee, so you might be in jeopardy then. But yeah, I'd suggest that no matter what type of doctor you plan to see, make sure he or she is board certified in the specific field of your concern. Take plastic surgery for an example. We had a plastic surgeon on from Beverly Hills last year, and he very specifically said that some doctors, such as board certified internists, practice plastic surgery and say that they are board certified, which in part is true, but they are not board certified in plastic surgery. They're board certified in something else and can get away with it. So yeah, do your homework, go to those state websites and find out.
Didn't he also say that some dentists say that they're board certified plastic surgeons?
They're board certified in dentistry. And so if they say, yes, we are board certified, but they're not specifically saying in plastic surgery. So yeah, be mindful and check and do your homework. Mm-hmm. All right, good guys. Here's scenario number 4. You are a patient in the hospital. Every time a staff member enters the room, they ask your name. This is just irritating. Are you in jeopardy or are you safe?
Personally, I'd want to give them my name to make sure they got the right patient.
I agree. I think it's important. I think you're safe. I think that the more information they get to you to be sure that they are in fact treating the right person, the better. When we had my daughter, they came in and not only asked our name, but looked at our ID bracelets every time to be sure that, in fact, she was my child and I was her mother, and we were all on the same page. So I think the more information they have to be sure they are carrying out the correct treatment is appropriate.
It's appropriate. What do you think, Eric?
Definitely annoyed, but safe.
It is annoying to say, yes, it's me.
That's a good answer, Eric.
Yes. As irritating as it may be, it is an important precaution to make sure that you are who the staff thinks that you are. Make a huge sign and post it above your bed. Yes, I am Mrs. Delia Dinglemeyer, and please wash your hands before touching me. Unless your name is not Mrs. Delia Dinglemeyer.
Thank you.
All right, here's our last question. Scenario number 5. You are taken to the hospital in an emergency. The healthcare providers ask if you have a living will or a healthcare power of attorney. You prepared these documents years ago and have no idea where they are. Your healthcare power of attorney has passed away last year. You shrug and pass out. Are you in jeopardy or are you safe? We're going to let Allison begin with that since it's your field of
Well, I think you are in jeopardy for not updating your planning subsequent to your agent passing away. And I think if you have these documents in place, it's very important that you know where they are and that other people have copies of them so that you're able to say, yes, I do have a healthcare power of attorney and this person is my agent. You can, however, now when you're renewing your license, when they ask if you are going to be an organ donor, they also ask you if you have a living will. So it's important that if you have that information, you disclose it to the VMV, then they put a nice little sticker on the bottom of your license so that emergency personnel would know that, in fact, you do have a living will in place.
Excellent information. Glad you're here. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, any important papers like that, no matter what they're pertaining to, you want to know exactly where they are and keep them in a safe place. So, if you don't have them at that point, you are in jeopardy.
Yes, you are. And what do you say, Bob?
I think they need to purchase your patient safety log and keep all their papers in the safety log with all your medical information. You were writing notes on napkins, toilet paper, and everything else when you came home and trying to compile it. So if you don't have a patient safety log, we do have them.
That's true, and that's a great place to keep it. Well, you guys have good answers. I'd say to all of you listeners out there, though, if you haven't prepared any of these types of documents, you don't want to land in the hospital, shrug and pass out without updated advance directives. My suggestion is to contact Allison to help you with this. You do not want to be in jeopardy. Well, guys, I'm not really sure who won that.
We all did.
That's right. I
think it's a draw.
That's right.
I feel like I won because now I know about the July effect.
That is
answer. Yay. See, we're all winners, and all of our listeners are winners too, because now we all know a little bit more about patient safety. Well, thank you, Bob, for being with us today.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
And Allison, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Allison, before you go, where can our listeners find out more about you?
You can reach us at 440-585-1600. We also have a website, which is www.schraffking.com.
Well, thank you, Don Pardo, and thank you, friends, for playing our most favorite and fun game ever. Are you in jeopardy or are you safe? And listeners, don't go anywhere. There's so much more that you can learn about healthcare and hospital safety on America's favorite and perhaps the only patient safety show in the world, Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. And Bob, it's a wrap.
Thank you.
On this show, we talk about the need for a patient advocate during every healthcare or hospital encounter. But advocacy also includes whom you rely on when it comes to health insurance. And when it comes to your Medicare supplement plans, you must compare. And you must compare with an impartial provider. And that's where Generation America comes in. Listen while I spend the next 2 minutes with Chris Alberta, the Medicare supplement partner with Generation America, as we discuss the importance of choice. Chris, can you tell us how are you and Generation America different when it comes to choosing a Medicare supplement plan?
They're doing something, Pat, that is really unique. As opposed to looking for an opportunity to hook up with one carrier or a company with a couple of products, what they said to us was, how can we offer everybody who's a member of our organization basically a menu? Many people don't know this. Is all these Medicare plans, most of them are exactly the same coverage. The only difference is the price that you pay. We work with probably upwards of about 50 different programs and carriers around the country, which is most of them. And Generation America hooked up with us and said, listen, how can we show our members every single program that's available in their zip code and then really break it down according to age and price so they never end up overpaying? All of the reps that work for us have been licensed and trained in this kind of work, and most of them have worked in the field, Pat, actually at the kitchen table with folks. So they're not just, like a sales bank somewhere. They really care what you get, and we pay them exactly the same either way, which is cool because there's no incentive to ever recommend one product or one company over another.
That is great to know. People need choices, and they need to feel safe when they make those choices. So how can our listeners find out more, and where can they purchase the proper Medicare supplement for themselves?
Well, the website, generationamerica.org, is the main portal. That's the front door, really, for that team.
Well, thank you for spending the time to clarify Medicare supplements with us today, Chris.
No problem, Beth.
For more information or to join, visit generationamerica.org. You're listening to Speak Up and Stay Alive, Patient Safety Radio, every Saturday morning in Cleveland, Ohio, and every Saturday and Sunday morning in Phoenix, Arizona. I am Pat Rulo, your hostess and author of the book, Speak Up and Stay Alive, the Patient Advocate Hospital Survival Guide, available at all of our live speaking events, or at our website, speakupandstayalive.com. That's where you can also locate radio show times, dates, and station information. That's speakupandstayalive.com. And remember, in September, we will be adding 20 new shows to our current lineup. So now folks throughout the United States can hear the critically acclaimed patient safety radio show, Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. Well, today we talked about the little discussed healthcare hazards surrounding smart meters. I encourage you to take this seriously. It's not so long ago when people believed that smoking cigarettes was safe. I'm venturing a guess that someday, after irreparable damage has been done to society, some wizard will announce that smart meters, cell phones, and other daily radiation-emitting devices are a no-no. Let's wise up now and speak up. And our guests, Dr. Lauge Sokol-Hessner and Jennie Greene from Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, shared what their hospital is doing to become conversation ready when it comes to talking to patients about their end-of-life wishes. Put this on your list of things to do. Go to the website, theconversationproject.org, and click on the Starter Kit. Lots of really helpful tools to help you start that conversation with your family and your healthcare providers. Now, if you missed some of today's show or want to share it with friends, we've made it easy for you to hear it again. Simply go to the radio link at the speakupandstayalive.com website and click the link with today's date. That's where you can also purchase the book, Speak Up and Stay Alive. And if you don't have internet access, it's okay to call me. Lots of folks order the book that way. It's 440-725-5462. I've said this before, but I can't tell you how many people have stopped and told me after a live presentation or have sent emails to tell me that they've taken the book with them to the hospital, or they bring it as a gift to a friend in the hospital. Then they lay it on the tray table, and how that generates such positive conversations with the healthcare staff. Now, at a glance, they know that you are an e-patient. Remember, empowered and educated. So if you do not have a copy, I really do encourage you to have one. Not because I wrote it, but because you need it and it could help you. And if you do not have internet access, it's okay to call and order by phone, 440-725-5462. And now, let's take a moment to thank all of our radio sponsors and weekly guest experts, because thanks to them, we are here and that keeps all of us safe. We have Schraff and King, attorneys for all of your advanced planning needs in Willoughby Hills, Ohio. And Darryl Hicks, consultant and author of the book, Infection Prevention for Dummies. Generation America, the AARP alternative. Elizabeth Bailey, author of The Patient's Checklist. Junction Auto Family in beautiful Chardon, Ohio. Mountain View Funeral Home and Cemetery in Mesa and Queen Creek. Power tags, titles, and more in Queen Creek. Hari Khalsa, the Healthcare Whisperer. Casey Quinlan, Mighty Casey Media, and author of Cancer for Christmas and the Coyote Coupon Books. I encourage you to support these fine folks, and you can find their information at the SpeakUpAndStayAlive.com website. Oh, and be sure to listen next week, as our guest is someone you heard today, Allison McMeechan, our favorite attorney from Schraff and King. She will be with us to answer your most pressing email questions. And as you can tell from our Jeopardy game today, not only is she smart, she's funny and easy to talk to and work with. So mark your calendars, set your alarms, and tie a string around your weekend finger. You don't want to miss America's favorite patient safety radio show. That's next Saturday morning, where you can find us in Cleveland, Ohio, from 7 to 8 Eastern on AM 1420 WHK, and from 9 to 10 Eastern on AM 1220 WHKW. And on Saturday mornings in Phoenix, Arizona, you'll find us from 6 to 7 Mountain Time on AM 1360 KPXQ. And then on Sunday morning, you can listen in Phoenix from 9 to 10 Mountain Time on AM 960 KKNT. If you're not in those areas, you can always listen live via the internet. Check the SpeakUpAndStayAlive.com website to find out how. Start your week with an O. Speak Up and Stay Alive, Patient Safety Radio. And in the meantime, I hope you have a healthy and a happy week. I am Pat Rulo, and I am your guide to safe and successful healthcare and hospital encounters.
The information provided in today's broadcast is for informational purposes only and was not intended for use as diagnosis or treatment of a health problem and should not be considered as medical advice. If you've missed part of today's show or just want to share the information with friends, you can listen to all of Pat's previous shows at SpeakUpAndStayAlive.com. Want even more information? Purchase a copy of Pat's book at SpeakUpAndStayAlive.com. Once again, it's SpeakUpAndStayAlive.com. Or you can call Pat at 440-725-5462. Until next week, remember, it's okay to ask others to wash their hands. You have to speak up and stay alive. Brought to you by Generation America, the smart and traditional 50-plus membership organization. And they provide a full range of benefits to members. If you're looking for a quality Medicare supplement, their rates are lower than the other 50-plus organization 3 out of 4 times. Generation America. To join and to find out more, visit generationamerica.org.